What's up, everybody? This is Chef Omar Pereney from Arc Hospitality. So good to see you again and your smiley faces. Today we have Matthew Mabel.
Hey, this is a great chance to get together.
I know, I'm so excited to finally have you. Question number one for you today is, how's your day going?
Been a good day. It's been a hectic day. I've had plumbers tear up my deck to get the leak out from under my deck. I got my daughter to school, and I talked to 3 clients and helped them. So it's been a good day.
That's awesome, and same here. It's a really cool way to end the week. Matthew, I have so many questions for you. I'm gonna try to act like I don't know anything about you, even though I am a fan of your work.
Okay, so you're going to be acting.
I'm gonna act. Yeah, I don't know anything about you, so if you don't mind, just a little introduction about you. How was your introduction to the industry?
Introduction to the industry. I came out of the music business into the hospitality business. And I first came on the nightclub side. I was in my 20s. I was a multi-unit nightclub owner and operator, which was something that was a lot of fun in your 20s. After that, maybe not so much.
I can relate. I'm about to turn 30.
Wow. That's when I got out of that nightclub thing and I realized my guest would always be 27, but I would just get further and further from 27.
I was going to ask you, how did management and restaurant, ownership lead into consulting for you? And I guess you just answered that question.
Yeah, and the interesting thing was in my nightclub business, I had a great ability to motivate my team, get people excited, give people the best jobs they'd ever had, get organized, hit our goals, do special things that got national recognition. And I really learned that was my capability from my own businesses for 10 years. And then I started doing the same thing for other people.
Very, very interesting. A lot of people here don't really know what you do. So let's actually take a little step back and can you tell us a little bit about what is your current practice? And also, if you don't mind, explain the name. What's the story behind it?
Well, I don't know if I can tell everybody about the name. But Surrender is the name of my company. And the idea of Surrender, the concept is that you're not supposed to have all the answers yourself. The smartest people, the best way of living your life is getting others to help you with things that don't come naturally to you. And what my business is about, my life's work, which my life's work is about helping successful owners of independent restaurant companies have their companies in the dream state that they can imagine and their lives in a flexible state that they'd like to imagine. So we're known for increasing revenue, profit, unit growth, making sure there's harmony in an organization because life's too short not to have harmony in an organization, and plenty of personal freedom for owners so they don't have to wait until they retire or sell to enjoy the fruits of their labors.
Man, it's so cool to hear you talking. In fact, makes me really jealous because, I'm in the other side of the spectrum and I do most of the openings. So let's just start with the first thing that you said. With the current situation and the customer buying habits and stuff, things changing, how does today's operator build more revenue?
So today's operator has a lot of opportunities. Now, I'm working with successful people, and I was having this conversation with one of my clients at breakfast the other day. You hear about the restaurant industry, razor thin margins, restaurants only make 6%. It's really tough. Those are not my people. My people are the people that are high achievers, very successful, and want to get more successful.
They want to go to the next level.
And we're way past this razor thin margin thing, which is, probably a lot of people that are getting started and learning in the business. I'm about making successful people more successful. So even though the pandemic was horrible, stressful, dangerous,
the worst,
sad, because we lost so many people, and still treacherous, it has created some business opportunity. And as an optimist, I'm kind of oriented that way. So what do we have now? We have these new channels. All of a sudden, we have a new guest, a to-go curbside delivery guest. And it used to be, if we could get 8 or 9% to go, we'd be feeling great. Now we want 20. That's not going to change. There is a guest that prefers that for the rest of their life.
Rest of their lives, yeah.
Two, as we record this in February of 22, there's a lost guest that's ready to come back. There are guests, even though our restaurants have been really vital in the last year, especially starting the second quarter of last year. We know there's a guest that's been afraid to come out. That guest is ready. that guest is saying to themselves, if I'm ever going to go back to a restaurant in my life, it's going to be now.
It's going to be now.
So we're going to have an opportunity to capture that guest. And all I'm saying about this year is a guest count year. Last year was a revenue year. We've got to build our guest count. We've got to enjoy our omni-channel of to-go, delivery, curbside, to augment our dining room. So there's a lot of opportunity to raise revenue. And my clients and I are starting to really look at guest count, whereas last year we were looking at revenue because we knew all our growth was going to come from PPA and menu price increases. This year is about getting more people to come.
Right. Right now, a lot of people are scared. A lot of people are also being very proactive. And I like what you said there. It's not about whether or not the industry is coming back. I also talked about that with Melissa Stevens last week. And it's roaring back, right? It is definitely coming back. It's more a matter of whether or not you're ready or you're going to be prepared for that, for what's coming up next. How do you see the use of technology? If you see the use of technology affecting management and staff positions, do you see anything changing because of the use of technology?
So that's a great question. That's another huge learning from the pandemic, because if we did this 2 years ago, we were probably working with independent restaurant owners, not super focused on technology. The big guys were more focused on technology. And one of the things we learned, and by we, I mean the community I'm in, successful multi-unit people, independents, is that not only are we in the branding business, which is our main asset, but we're also in the technology business.
Right.
And we will never catch up with the chains on technology. I mean, there are chains that, can tell that I'm pulling into their parking lot and I'm ready to get my to-go order. And here's what I had the last time. Okay. We're probably not going to get there, but we've added so much technology in terms of how it affects the guest, how they order, how it affects the guest in the dining room and our people that work in the restaurants, maybe how they schedule, manage tables, how they collect payments, and in our back office, how we do processes that can truly be automated without worrying about hospitality. So what I tell all of my clients now is you must have a hospitality technology plan. You've got to have a restaurant technology plan. It's got to look out a year or two to the things that you want to add. You've got to have somebody in your organization who owns that plan and is responsible for it. And you've got to add these pieces in a sequence.
It's funny that we're talking about this.
I'm sorry, you're going to be left so far behind. We're never going to catch up to Chipotle, okay?
But we don't have to necessarily, right?
50% of the way there. We're going to have a vibrant business. And I want all my clients to be in a position to dominate their segment based on all the great things that we do together.
I love what you're saying. That a lot of people think that you have to compete with Chipotle when it comes to technology. Of course, you can, but you don't have to. You don't have to do a lot of development from scratch. There is a lot of white label and software as a service options out there. You just have to be mindful of technology, like you said, and I think you have to be thoughtful and not be thinking that technology is going to be a last minute thing. There is a tech stack, and you really need to plan that in advance. So that's very interesting.
And I think we've all learned a lot about it in the last year. I've certainly learned about it, and I know a lot more about it than I did then, and I see it totally differently than I did then. And that's been one of the good things that happened during the last 2 years, is we've been forced to learn this, and now we don't have to play catch up as we might have. And but you got to be working on it. If you look around in your company and nobody's working on it, you must correct that immediately.
Yeah, and it's not just POS. Technology is not doesn't start and end in POS, right? It's product management, it's labor management, it's marketing, it's email marketing, it's CRM softwares, it's what else? The first party, third party delivery. There's a lot.
Right, and I'm going to give a shout out to a restaurant technology expert, Michael Atkinson, who taught this to me in the last 2 years. It's not only it doesn't start or end with your POS, it doesn't even have anything to do with your POS. We all think the POS is the center of our technology stack. But what I've learned is those days are over.
Wow, what's his name again?
Michael Atkinson.
Michael Atkinson. Sir, this is a formal invitation to Ask Ark.
I will connect you. You'd probably love to do this.
I just love the technology topic. Well, I don't know if I told you this, but both my parents worked in technology forever. And I grew up around an Oracle kind of driven house. So the mouse pad, the pens, the note, everything had the logo. So I geek out with technology quite a bit. Matthew, one of the things that you're very famous for is that you're able to set people free. Restaurant owners, you're able to set them free. So how do you get owners out of the day-to-day grind and set them free to choose how they improve the way they live their lives? Because that's everybody.
A strong belief that I talked about earlier that we're not working on this earth so that eventually we can enjoy it. So my clients are making more money than they ever imagined they'd make in their whole life. But a lot of them feel that in order to continue doing that, they can't leave. It's dependent on them. So I've spent a ton of time with different clients setting them free. And one of the stories that Omar, you've heard before, is I have a client that said to me, "Hey, I bought a house on Maui." I was like, "Great." He said, "No, it's not great. I can't go. My wife goes with my kid. I have to stay in these restaurants." So that was a sad day for him. And in that case, he and I spent 18 months building a company around his hugely successful restaurants so that he could leave for a month or 6 weeks and nothing would change. So how do we do that? Most people come up on hard work, and at some point, hard work has a limited reward, and organization and systems and team members have a bigger reward. So a lot of my clients love working hard all the time, but a lot of my clients say, "Hey, I'm successful now. I want to enjoy it now. How can I leave X number of weeks a year or work X number of hours a week," which is something I believe in. Let's redesign this company so that other people are doing things who, by the way, can probably do it better than they can do it anyway. And I can have personal freedom, whether that's personal freedom to be with my family, do my hobbies, go to the beach in Maui, or plan my next restaurants, knowing that the ones I've got now are running.
Oh, I apologize for the downtown noises. I am the most interested in learning those secrets, Matthew, and that's why I'm so fascinated when I hear you talk, because I do want to do all those things, and I do want to make most money that I've ever,
Right. So I'll tell you a story. One of the reasons I think I do that is my dad was really successful, and he worked a lot all over the world, constantly traveling, falling asleep, 6 o'clock on Sunday night on the way to the airport. And I think what I learned from that is you can be successful without having to put in that much time if you do it in a smart way. And that's what I've taken to a lot of the restaurateurs that are doing great, but feel like they have to be there. Because that's a feeling, that's not reality. We have systems, tools, we can bring in people to make your restaurant run as if you were there, even though you're not there.
So did he get to go back to the house in Maui?
Same thing for you and your business. It can be done, because I know you're a hardworking guy.
You bet. Matthew, I wanted to ask you about ARC very briefly. So, what made you join ARC Hospitality, and why do you think there's a need, or what do you think is good to have a group of hospitality professionals?
So let me tell you, Omar, you and I have something in common. We work with restaurant owners. There are a select group of people in our industry who have a special role helping restaurant owners, whether it's what you do in culinary, what I do in organizational development, concept development, what a banker might do, or a lawyer might do, or a real estate person might do, or a general contractor, or an accountant, or a marketing person. And our clients have these unique relationships with us that we build over years, trusting, supportive. We celebrate our victories. We commiserate our occasional failures before we correct them. So by connecting with other people that are operating at that level, we are peers with our clients. It just becomes so much more powerful of what we can do for people to make their restaurants strong. And that's what really attracted me to what you created, which I'm super impressed that you created it, with the ARC group, because you want to be around equals, you want to be around peers, you want to say, hey, I know the person that can really help this client to do that. And that's the power of a group. And all of us wake up in the morning thinking the same thing. How can I help successful restaurateurs today? So we have that commonality. So it's really been great.
Well, thank you. I am so honored to have you in the group, even though, like you said, I started it. I think this is one of those things that are way bigger than me, and I love that about that. Us millennials sometimes just want that sense of, well, we want to be a part of something that's bigger than us. And I definitely get a lot of that with ARC. So
we all get to look back at these successes. Hang on a second.
Right.
Voice failure. Should have brought my ARC mug. Sorry. Without my ember.
We're getting them done.
Wrong mug. Okay, let me go back in. Well, we all get to look back at how we've helped people, how we've been successful. I mean, I've got one group came to me with 5 restaurants. We can't do anything more. We're done. We can only have 5 restaurants. And today they have 22 restaurants. And in 2 years, they'll have 44 restaurants. We all get to look back at these great stories of how we've helped people. And that makes for an extremely rewarding experience.
That's it. We all have a different niche. We all do different things, but we're all trying and working real hard to make the world a more delicious, like I like to say, and prosperous place. And
it's just all about helping people, period. That's what we're here for.
Matthew, you're very committed with the Texas Restaurant Association. Is that right? You've been a longtime supporter, way longer than I have done a lot of things. Can you tell us a little bit about your involvement with it?
Well, I've been a supporter of Texas Restaurant Association for many years, and I've met so many great restaurateurs through Texas Restaurant Association. I've served as a trustee of the Texas Restaurant Association Foundation, which operates the largest high school culinary and restaurant management workforce training program in the world. And we're going to have a competition. Our annual competition is just a month away, which I'll be judging as we record this. And I've been served locally here in Dallas on the board, the executive committee. And I've also advised Texas Restaurant Association and local chapters in my organizational work. So the neat thing about Texas Restaurant Association is we have a very open, sharing community. You might never believe that a restaurateur with a restaurant on one side of the street would be sitting down with the person across the street and coming up with solutions and ideas and helping each other. And that is pretty amazing. I don't know if it's the case everywhere, but in Texas, it certainly is, that competitors will sit down, help each other, work together. And Texas Restaurant Association has been very supportive of my work. I've spoken a lot to those groups. I've done a lot of webinars and workshops online for TRA, and just keeping our industry up to date, educated, finding the easy ways to do things instead of the hard ways is really what TRA is about. And of course, its primary purpose, lobbying on behalf of the industry in Austin and in Washington.
So for someone who's relatively new to the industry, let's say you just opened their first or maybe their second restaurant, what advantages you think those associations would have for them?
Well, if you get involved in your local chapter, you're going to meet people who have already solved the problems that you're facing, have already dealt with the issues you're facing, and you won't be alone. If you're new, you're at 1 unit, maybe 2 units, it's a great place to network. And by getting involved from a legislative standpoint, it's a great way to protect yourself on the lobbying efforts, because there's a lot of lobbying efforts that will impact you as you continue to go. So that would be a great way to get started. Contact your local chapter, join, and start showing up to meetings.
Love that. Matthew, we have a question here for one of our listeners. You've presented at this association meetings for a long time, and the audience really wants to know, who's your favorite moderators?
Wow. I wonder who might be calling in on that.
I wonder, right?
I can imagine who my favorite moderator is. Omar, my favorite moderator will be you when you start doing moderating at the TRA show.
Oh, thank you. Chris Tripoli's feelings are going to be so hurt.
Well, I did think of him as number 2.
Oh, I love it.
Whew. Matthew, if you had Matthew Mabel, 18-year-old Matthew Mabel in front of you, what would be a piece of advice you give him?
Wow, that's a great question. 18-year-old Matthew Mabel was in London, England, writing about music. Had no idea he would go in that path. So if I told him what was going to happen, he'd probably be shocked. He'd probably be shocked.
To death about this conversation.
But I would tell you that something about, you mentioned the TRA, and I'm also involved in an international association of elite consultants from around the world. not restaurant consultants, different consultants in all fields. And that's been a good group for me. And I'm involved in ARC. That's been a good group for me. TRA has been a good group for me. And you know, a lot of us entrepreneurs are kind of lone wolves. We like to do things ourselves. So I think the best advice I would give 18-year-old Matthew Mabel, if I could get him out of that concert hall, or get his headphones off his head while he was reviewing an album, would be find groups that can help you. That makes things move so much more quickly.
Right. People think it's kind of common saying that if you want to go fast, you go solo, right?
So the funny thing is, when I was operating, which, you know, I was very successful in my 20s, I wasn't out looking for consultants and advisors. I thought I could do it myself. And then I became a consultant and advisor.
That's pretty funny.
Take that for what you will.
Exactly. Matthew, what are 3 people that have influenced you, that have mentored you, people that you admire deeply?
Wow, that's a good one. Some of them I know, some of them I don't know. I have to say my dad, because I don't know why I'm good at business. I didn't go to business school. So maybe it just kind of, you know, floated across the room.
Just give him some credit, shall we?
Yeah. So he's not here to watch this podcast anymore, but I would say that obviously some of it points back to him. I would say Eckhart Tolle. Eckhart Tolle wrote The Power of Now, which is my favorite book, which talks about staying in the moment.
The Power of Now.
It's a huge book. It's been a while. I probably wrote it 30 years ago. And then another person I would mention is Alan Weiss. Alan Weiss is the leading expert on consulting in the world. And I work with him. He's one of my mentors and advisors. And he created that international group that I'm part of. So those 3 people have been extremely influential in me being able to do these great things that I can do for restaurateurs and for my family now.
That's awesome.
Matthew, I am so thankful that you took the time today to join the podcast. I admire you and respect you deeply, and I'm just gonna let you finish you saying whatever you want to say. I have nothing else to say, but thank you. I'm so excited about the future, and I'm just excited to work together.
So I would tell you, Omar, it's super exciting to see the way that you're going about this and getting us all on the podcast. That means we're going to come up with a lot of new and great ideas in the future that are going to really help restaurateurs. If you're a restaurateur and you've read my stuff, or you get my newsletter, or you've seen me speak, or even if it's the first time you've ever heard my voice, what I want you to know is don't get into that mindset where, oh, the restaurant business has to be hard. It has to be this way. It's got to be difficult. It's a tough business. I have to be there all the time. I can never get away. It's on one crisis after another. Don't become that person. If you look around, you'll see people, and I'm hanging out with a lot of those people, by the way. You'll see people that have been able to have the business and the restaurants they deserve. Have it in a positive way. I believe that your restaurant career ought to be a joy. And I spend every day at work helping people make their restaurant careers joyful and productive and dreamlike. So once you understand that you can be that way, then the onus is for you to find people and resources to make it that way for you. Believe me, it's possible. It's being done right now. Don't be a razor-thin margin, the sky is falling person. Be amongst the best in your segment. Learn how to run a great business and a great company to please your guests, your employees, and yourself. Do not compromise your ideals. You don't have to.
That's awesome.
Guys, that was all for today. This was Askark. We'll see you next week. Thank you, Matthew.